Hey everyone, it's B, and you're listening to another episode of the In Your Feelings podcast. On today's episode, I wanted to dive into a topic I think a lot of us can relate to. When I was growing the most, when I was genuinely moving in the direction of a life that I could have been proud of a life that was full of growth and beauty and hope and everything that I saw within my potential. When I was going through those seasons of growth that were getting me there, it did not feel like that. And I think that's because I had a very definitive idea of what it meant to be doing well in life. I had a very definitive concept of what success was, or what happiness was, or what growth was. And I compared my journey to everyone around me and convinced myself that whenever I was feeling uncertain, or whenever I was feeling discomfort, or when I was outgrowing certain relationships or experiencing negative seasons of life, that I wasn't actually moving forward. In reality, I can look back on those seasons and those moments that were occurring around me, those things that felt very messy and heavy and negative, and I can see them as the very signs, the neon signs that the universe was telling me, no, this is a good thing. This discomfort is a good thing. The loss of certain relationships, the loss of certain human beings in your life, the outgrowing of those definitions of success and happiness into new ones, into more hopeful ones or fuller ones, those were actually signs that you were doing better than you thought you were doing in those moments, because you were moving forward and you were changing and you were honoring that change and evolving. Sometimes our evolution can feel extremely uncomfortable. And so I wanted to create a podcast episode that speaks to signs you're doing better than you think you are. I want you to start reframing these feelings or these seasons in your life and seeing the potential that they have within them and seeing the lessons that they have within them. Just because you might be going through loss, or just because you might be questioning your life, does not necessarily mean that that's a bad thing. That could actually be the best thing. And that segues really nicely into my first sign. One of the first ways you know that you are actually doing better than you think you are in life is if you're questioning it, is if you're feeling lost. And while feeling lost or uncertain is absolutely scary at times, due to being taught so often that we have to have everything in our lives figured out, you're actually doing better than you think you are if you are in a season of questioning yourself and your purpose here. As you grow and as you evolve as a human being, your hopes and your dreams, the version of yourself you want to become, that should evolve with you as well. Feeling lost just means that you're transforming and growing into a new chapter of your life. But I understand why it's uncomfortable. We live in a generation that romanticizes hustle and moving forward as quickly as possible when it comes to our lives and our dreams and our hopes. You can feel like you're falling behind if you're questioning your life when everyone around you seems so sure or so successful within what they are pursuing. But there is no point in rushing so quickly towards a life that will not inspire you or fulfill you. It is okay to slow down. It is okay to take the time you need. You are in no rush to figure out your own soul. It's never too late to start over. It's never too late to change your mind. It's never too late to give up on the dreams you thought you wanted for ones that genuinely excite and challenge you. It's never too late to ask questions. It's never too late to really lean into that uncertainty and ask yourself if the direction you're moving is one that is genuinely going to fulfill you. And when you doubt this, remember, Oprah was fired from her first TV job, and Steven Spielberg was rejected from film school. Vera Wang was a figure skater who ended up starting to design wedding gowns when she was 40. Van Gogh only sold one painting in his lifetime. All of the greats we consider heroes, all of the people we want to emulate, they all approach their journeys from a unique timeline. They didn't have it figured out immediately. And that's okay. And that's okay. And so if you're questioning your life right now, if you feel lost, if you don't know what your future holds any longer because your vision of the future feels and looks so different than what you always thought it would be, if you have been moving so quickly in a direction that is no longer fulfilling you, and there is that pit in your stomach, you know, that gut instinct that is telling you that you just need to slow down, that you need to make some changes, that can feel really negative, but that is one of the greatest gifts you can give yourself. Leaning into that feeling and asking yourself what you actually want. Leaning into that discomfort and seeing that discomfort as one of the most positive signs that you are growing and evolving and allowing that growth and allowing yourself to transform and allowing yourself to evolve no matter how hard it gets, no matter how hard you have to let go of things you so deeply want to hold on to, things that just do not fit into your life anymore. If you are feeling all of these things right now, please, if there's one piece of advice I can give you, it is to see these as a sign of growth. Questioning your life, feeling uncomfortable. I know it feels negative, but I promise it means you are growing, and it is something to celebrate because it means that you are doing so much better than you think you are. All right, so another sign that you're doing better than you may think you are right now is that you have lost relationships or friendships or opportunities that you never thought you would outgrow, that you never thought you would walk away from. When you evolve and when you grow, not everyone in your life will grow in the same direction as you, and that's okay. If you've lost relationships or friendships, it means that you understood this and that you knew when to walk away from connections and relationships that were no longer serving you. This takes a lot of courage, and that's why it's a sign of deep growth. You tried for something, you loved, you evolved, and instead of holding on to things that no longer felt right, you gave yourself permission to outgrow them. And so this is your reminder that it is okay to outgrow people who don't know how to love you. It is okay to outgrow the person you used to be. It is okay to change. It is okay to want different things. It is okay to want a version of happiness that differs from the one you had when you were younger, or that differs from the one you had 6 months ago or a week ago. It is okay. It is okay to walk away from those things, whatever they may be. It is okay to take inventory, to pay attention to what in this life is giving you energy and what in this life is draining it. And to stop moving in the direction of those energy drainers, but rather to encourage yourself to move towards everything that is giving you life, everything that makes you feel like a better person, everything that feels light, everything that adds beauty to your life. If you are going through so much, if you are experiencing and putting yourself into this world, be proud of the way you have changed and be proud of what you have outgrown. Be proud of the way you have grown more aware, more secure, or more in alignment with what you truly want. That is evolution, and you can't fight it. So embrace it. Allow yourself to let go. Be in awe of your growth. Do not turn it into a bad thing. It's a sign that you're doing so much better than you think you are. And don't get me wrong, letting go is scary, but we can reframe it into something really beautiful. Because how lucky were you to have these people, these circumstances, or these moments in your life? Even though you had to let go, how lucky were you to find all of this growth, to experience things at the hand of life that taught you and built you into the kind of person who has more awareness now, who has transformed into someone with new goals or a new viewpoint or a new dream or a heart that believes in a different kind of love, a fuller, more beautiful kind of love. Isn't that incredible? That for a moment in time you experienced something that changed your life, that taught you what you wanted, that you experienced something that really opened your eyes to how you want to be loved, how you want to be treated, how you want your friendships to feel. Isn't it incredible that you were given that knowledge, that you were given those lessons? Sometimes your biggest losses are your biggest gains. The people that leave your life, the opportunities that never come to fruition, sometimes they may feel like losses. It may make you feel like you are falling behind or like you are not doing good enough, but they are your signs of growth. Remember that. Okay, so before we get into the rest of this episode, I did just want to thank the sponsor of today's podcast, and that is Nature's Way. We talk a lot on this podcast about doing the work to ensure that we are showing up for ourselves in all aspects of our lives. We also talk a lot about how that can be difficult at times, how a journey towards learning how to better take care of ourselves and nourish ourselves on every level can be overwhelming to start or navigate. But I always try my best to remind you that no matter where you are on your journey back home to yourself, you don't have to do it alone. Nature's Way believes the same thing, and they've dedicated over 50 years to driving that mission home and to helping people like you and I feel supported along our wellness journeys. What I really admire about Nature's Way is that it feels accessible. It's always inspiring to make the choice to better take care of ourselves, to really stand up and decide that we want to be better for our future selves. But at times, there are so many twists and turns on that journey, and our needs are always evolving. With a large range of products and supplements sourced from the highest quality ingredients, Nature's Way has something for every aspect of your journey, no matter what it looks like. So whether you're taking small steps towards your wellness goals or you're looking to evolve even further, it's comforting to know that they'll be there every step of the way. Find the right supplements for your wellness journey at naturesway.com. All right, so another sign that you are doing better than you think you are right now is that your self-care is starting to become proactive rather than reactive. You've learned how to take care of yourself, even if you're navigating days or seasons of difficulty. You understand that life does not necessarily get easier, but rather you better learn over time how to support yourself and how to ensure that the bad days don't control you. If you know what you need to do each day in order to feel grounded and at peace with yourself, that is something to celebrate. Self-care isn't an extreme reaction where you escape your life or any moment that is unsettling, but rather it is a cornerstone of your daily routine. Self-care is less bubble baths or retail therapy, and it's smaller, more constructive habits like working out on the days you don't want to, or ensuring that you're taking your medicine each morning because you know that those things will make you feel better in the long run. And the reason why learning how to do these things, the reason why, if you make time for these things or have started to really, really cater to these things in your life, to really taking care of yourself on the smallest, most micro level, the reason why this is a sign that you are doing better than you may think you are is because these things aren't necessarily easy to choose. It's easy to try to numb yourself to your pain or your growth. But when you show up for yourself in the smallest ways, in ways that prove to yourself that you are a priority, that you are taking care of yourself, not in these large and surface level ways, but when you do the hard things, that is also self-care. And it shows you on a deep level that you love yourself. That is something to celebrate. Okay, so another sign that you are doing so much better than you think you are is if you are learning from your mistakes. If you can convert your struggles and challenges into valuable lessons, you are doing something right. Mistakes have the power to turn us into someone better than we were before. If you acknowledge and learn from them, mistakes are among the greatest of teachers. And I think this is such a sign of growth because it can be really difficult to admit to ourselves that we haven't always been a version of ourselves that we are proud of. It's sometimes easier for us to acknowledge that someone else hurt us than to be the person who admits that we hurt someone or that we were in the wrong when dealing with certain circumstances or experiences in our life. It isn't easy to face the parts of ourselves we would rather avoid. It isn't easy to admit that we hurt someone we care deeply about. It isn't easy to admit that we could have approached a situation with more compassion or empathy or kindness. It isn't easy to gather our mistakes around us and to be soft with them. That is where genuine growth springs from. Our ability to hold ourselves accountable and to find lessons within the accountability that makes us better. Mistakes, failure, hurt. We can carve growth out of those things and they build our foundation. When life is sunny and beautiful, we're not always having our eyes open to the internal ways in which we need to grow, the ways in which we could be better to ourselves or our potential or the world around us. We often shift into those states when we can't deny that growth anymore. And those shortcomings or places of contention cause us to open our eyes. They become undeniable. I always say you cannot heal a wound if you do not feel it. You cannot heal a wound if you do not acknowledge it. If you just pretend the mistake doesn't exist, you will never be able to open it up, to look inside and to let it teach you. And so, if you have made mistakes before, if you have started looking back on your past, or if you have started looking inwards and saying, I have some work to do. I could have been better in this situation. And I may not have seen it then, but I see it now. How incredible is that growth? That is a sign that you are evolving. That is a sign that you are doing so much better than you may think you are. If you have the capacity to be self-aware like that, and to turn that self-awareness into something that pushes you forward into becoming the person you have always wanted to become, into becoming a kinder, softer, more tender version of yourself, a better version of yourself, that is something I will always, always be in awe of. And last but not least, a sign that you are doing better than you may think you are right now is that you are not the same person you were a year ago. And that is not something to mourn like we normally do. We often miss the past versions of ourselves, the way that life used to be when we weren't being challenged to expand or grow or evolve. But maybe we can reframe it into being something to celebrate, something to embrace. Because who you were is a version of yourself that exists in the past. A version of yourself that didn't go through the heartbreak or the hardship. A version of yourself that didn't have to navigate all of the ways in which life was trying to weather it. Who you were is a version of yourself that didn't have to fight their way out of the dark, that didn't have to deal with the things that caused change to crack within the soul of you, and those things transform a human being. And maybe you will never be reintroduced to that version of yourself. Maybe you will never get back to who you are. Maybe that version of yourself has evolved and grown into who you are meant to be at this moment in time. And maybe you have to lay down that expectation. Maybe you have to release that comparison, and instead maybe you have to trust in the lessons and the ways in which the world has asked you to stretch towards your becoming. Maybe you have to stop looking backwards, and maybe you have to focus on recognizing just how far you have come. Molting is the process by which a snake routinely casts off its skin to facilitate new growth, and sometimes life forces you to do the same. Sometimes life challenges you to shed relationships and ideals and the old versions of yourself that no longer serve you. So when you feel like you are not the same person, when you feel like you have unraveled, like you have evolved into someone you almost don't recognize, maybe that's something to honor. You have transitioned, you have transformed, and life will ask you to do so time and time again as you journey through it. And that's a beautiful thing. So allow it and embrace it, because it is a sign that you are doing so much better than you may think you are. Okay, so that's all I have for you today. I really hope that this episode helped to inspire you into being a little more gentle with yourselves. You are doing better than you think you are. On your hardest days, you are still growing, and I hope that this episode reminded you of that. And on that note, until next time, thank you so much for listening.